Rick Grenell's joining us now, former director of national intelligence. Rick, since you were on the broadcast last week, things have again changed rapidly. First, it was, initially it was President Trump, and then they did a raid of his house and through an execution of a search warrant. Then it was President Biden's office and house, and then we find out now that the FBI was basically saying, we're going to get a search warrant on your house unless you let FBI agents go through everything for 13 hours. Now Mike Pence has found documents, and they're saying we may have to send I guess they are sending the DOJ and FBI in there. It's making us look very much like Venezuela, Rick, instead of the United States. And I think what happened was when Merrick Garland, weak leadership, unleashed the FBI on the former president, he set in motion a cascade, a domino effect that's creating a disaster.
Yeah, look, they didn't know what they were asking. They didn't know what they were pushing. When you empower the National Archives to be the arbiter of what's classified and what's not, you really open up a can of worms. We all see this. It's all about Trump. It was started to be an anti-Trump weaponization of DOJ. And then we found quickly it backfired on them, like most of these inquiries do. And, Jay, look, are we sending the FBI to Dick Cheney's house, to George W. Bush's house, to Barack Obama's house?
I mean, I don't know. Here's the question, Rick. I have no idea.
Where do we stop?
Yeah, are they? I mean, they have. Let's go back on this weaponization thing. You were the director of national intelligence, so you know how all this works. It seems to me they did weaponize the FBI with that search warrant on the former president's house. They should have never authorized it. That magistrate judge should have been disqualified at the get-go. That's a different story. We've already covered that. But then now it's the current president's house, and they got FBI agents swarming through that. And now the vice president, like you said, you can name up all this. It makes us look so weak. That's what I'm worried about here. How does it make us look on the national stage?
Well, look, it really takes away our moral authority to tell other countries to clean up their act. And that's what I'm concerned about. It is chipping away at our moral authority. And I think that this immediately goes to the problems of Washington, D.C., not only the weaponization of this government. There's a whole bunch of dictators around the world that would love to weaponize their Department of Justice. But also I can't help but think about the media, Jay, because there are a whole bunch of countries with dictators who would love to have the mainstream media on their side the way that Joe Biden and the Democrats do. We can no longer look at countries and say, you've got to have a free press when our entirety of the mainstream media are with the Democrats and giving aid and comfort to the Democrats. And it happens on a constant basis. They may not see it in Washington, D.C. The political types may not see it, but the world sees it, and the American people certainly see it.
So, which begs the next issue here, and that is, I'm going to CC on this for a moment here, and that is, think about, and I want our audience to think about the idea that the sitting president of the United States, and I argue that this compelled process against the president is a huge mistake, and I don't care if that's Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I don't like this because exactly what's happening here. We argue that at the Supreme Court of the United States, 4 different cases. Because when you start process like this, you don't know where it goes. Does it become a distraction to the president? Of course it does. He's got to meet with his lawyers. They got to figure out what's going on. No one's accusing anybody of trading secrets with anyone. Not Trump, not Biden, not Pence. None of that's happening. But now you got the FBI weaponized, and they want to get into everybody's residence and house.
That's right.
Including the sitting president of the United States.
There's no end to this. As we've seen, they're saying now that they want to send letters to all the former presidents and vice presidents.
National Archives.
And that is ridiculous because where does it end? Are they going to send FBI agents there? And, some of the documents that they found in President Biden's house when he was vice president, but also when he was senator. Yeah. So it's like, where does this scope of the FBI's, authority?
I don't know how that
where's
could
it
have,
end?
I don't know how he could have gotten documents out when he was in the Senate, but nevertheless. All right, I want to switch gears here. Adam Schiff is no longer on the Intelligence Committee, nor is Eric Swalwell, which I think was a very good move by Kevin McCarthy. You dealt with these folks. What's your reaction to this, Rick? I think it was very good.
I think it's very good. Look, I dealt very closely with Schiff and his staff, and I said at the time, and this is a very big accusation what I'm making, but I know the seriousness of it. I had multiple career intelligence officials come to me when I was DNI and say to me, sir, I can no longer risk my career by briefing Adam Schiff or his people. They leak partial information. They manipulate information. It comes back on me. I look like I did something wrong, and my career suffers if I'm going to be asked to brief Adam Schiff and his team because they are notorious leakers. I had multiple people, Jay, say this to me. I'm not going to do it, sir. I cannot risk my career to brief Schiff. I had a difficult time trying to find people that would brief Schiff. And the solution that I came up with, and it was really because of the Schiff problem, is I had the intelligence officers produce an unclassified version of the talking points that they were briefing so that we would release them, and there was a record of what subjects we said and how we framed it in the best possible way of an unclassified memo. And that was literally because of the problems of Schiff. To remove him from the intelligence committee is a very good thing for the intelligence community. It is going to allow them to brief officials in a more honest way, and it's going to make our country more secure.
You know, Adam Schiff, my experience with him, yours was that I had this one. So I'm handling the impeachment on, it was based on Ukraine, and it was based on, and then I had and they were trying to tie in the Russian hoax on the Trump campaign in collusion with the Russians. And through all of that, remember what Adam Schiff said. So let's take a listen to this and play it.
So there's clear evidence on the issue of collusion, and this adds to that body of evidence. There's ample evidence of collusion in plain sight, and that is true.
Have Democrats found any evidence of collusion?
Yes, we have. You can see evidence in plain sight on the issue of collusion, pretty compelling evidence. And there is significant evidence of collusion. There is ample evidence, and indeed there is, of collusion of people in the Trump campaign with the Russians. I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy. All of this is evidence of collusion. There is significant evidence of collusion between the campaign and Russia.
Yeah, except, Rick, there was zero. Wow. and $40 million and 2 years of investigation came up with there's no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. So this is the Adam Schiff. That's why we got to remind people who he is.
That was an incredible clip.
Yes.
And I just have to say that he should be hanging his head in shame of embarrassment for the lies that he told the public. I don't understand how he doesn't have a whole host of media hounding him to say, you said this to the American public and it was a lie.
Yep.
How do you justify continuing in Congress when you blatantly lied? I'm shocked that he's not facing that scrutiny.
Rick, we appreciate your insight as always, and you've got the unique ones, being the former director of national intelligence. We're glad you're part of the team. Thanks, Rick.